.05, I'm assuming that's one drink maybe.
I understand that it's a 3-day suspension or something of, like that. It's a short-term suspension if you're over the .05. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that law.
Well, they really reduced it. It sounds like it's like one drink and then you can't drive for a couple hours.
I've heard how it would change the 2 drinks of wine down to 1 drink of wine for a woman or 1 beer for a man, depending on the size.
I didn't even know it came down, but that's reasonable. That'd probably be, 1 drink?
Well, I'm about 200 pounds, so I generally a drink an hour is what my rule of thumb.
Because I am smaller, I'm short, so I mean it's likely that I wouldn't be able to drink anything at all.
Probably 2, because I got a bigger belly.
That they're not allowed to drink and drive at all. Is there any limit?
I know myself, if I'm out for dinner, it's 1 glass of wine or 1 beer and that's it.
I've been told that if you're larger and you're male that you can consume more before it affects you. However, I've never seen any actual research on that.
That's a function of your body, your metabolic rate, the size of your body. So it varies from person to person.
Oh yeah, that's also proportional too. I think that bigger people could take more or something. I think that's what it is.
The bigger you are, the more you weigh, the more you can drink before you'd have .05.
I don't really think it matters between male or female. I mean, people with from different ethnic backgrounds get affected different ways.
From a business point of view, you don't really have a responsibility. It's the responsibility of the customer to make the right decisions, I guess.
I don't think they're necessarily in charge of preventing drinking and driving. I think they should promote alternatives, but I don't know. I think it's up to the individual to not drink and drive.
They need to make sure that if someone's out of control, that they need to make sure that everybody's going home safely.
Well, I was a bartender about 25 years ago as a student, and I remember having to take the Smart Serve training. And so, it's trying to establish as best you can whether a person's been overserved or near their limits and stop serving them alcohol when they look like they're in that area.
But you don't know that there's been, drinking prior to coming in. Having said that, any individual who exhibits any signs of being intoxicated should be prohibited from driving, and their keys should be taken away.
We need to be responsible for ourselves. You can't ask an establishment to do that. I mean, you could, but the person's just going to move to another bar. So you can't police that.
I've heard of establishments getting sued if someone was allowed to leave there intoxicated, but mostly in the States. I haven't heard much about that in Canada.
I actually don't know.
I haven't heard anything about that. I'm sorry.
I just heard that they have to cut you off if you're too impaired, and I don't really know what they do about it, whether or not you're driving or not, because how can they tell?
Well, even if they're not driving, I think they have a legal responsibility not to serve someone to the point of impairment. That's my understanding.
For me, if I'm going to drink, then I would take a cab or I would have a designated driver. I personally don't risk it at all.
If I have to drive, I don't drink.
I think it's a great idea, but I don't think it's really going to affect me in the sense that I already wasn't at that limit. If I'm driving, I'm not drinking at all.
Oh, definitely, because there's a lot of ramifications. Even if you did have a couple drinks at Christmas time and drove home, if you get caught with just above .05, that can affect your ability to even travel to the States and stuff like that.
I am taking it seriously. It sounds horrible, but I certainly take it more seriously during the holiday season because the ride program is out in force.
Well, I don't consume a lot these days anyway, but again, the 1 drink limit is the way it works for me. So other than that, it's taxis or GO trains or whatever you're doing.